And this is a real thing. Leaner people have better nutrient partitioning. So you're eating food, as you get heavier and carrying more body fat around your body, your waistline and your metabolism is just like not quite working as well, and you know you could be leaner and healthier, you're getting less good nutrient partitioning. So to build muscle, you're feeding more calories, more quality food to help the body recover. But when you're overweight and you have some weight to lose, more of those calories may be ending up in fat cells. And there's not an exact science to this because it's very individual based on each person, but these are certainly strong trends and relationships that are supported in the research. All right, my friend, welcome back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project and Fit Mother Project podcast. Again, my name is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. I'm the founder and CEO here at the FFP and the FMP, and today's episode is all about muscle building. In particular, I want to discuss one specific idea, and that is the idea that it is best to get lean, reduce your weight, and reduce your body fat before building muscle. So basically, why it's best to start building muscle when you're already in a lean state. And I want to share some of my personal experience with this, as well as some of the research and scientific backing for this idea that it's easier to build muscle when you're in a lean state. But I want to first fall back on some of my personal experience. In my late teens and all throughout my 20s, I was obsessed with bodybuilding. I absolutely loved it. I was very inspired from a young age to build a big, strong body, so I took to weightlifting and trying to maximize my muscle building and became a competitive bodybuilder in my early 20s. And all of us that did bodybuilding at that time knew that right after you finished a bodybuilding contest, when you were at your leanest, you know, you were so happy that the contest was over that you could start eating again, but you also knew that there was a period of time right after that contest when you were the leanest that your body would respond tremendously to food and training, and it was very easy to build muscle. People actually have a name for it in the bodybuilding fitness community. We call it rebounding from a show in a competition, where when your body's in this lean state, it is ready to just build muscle, soak up nutrients, and just get into this anabolic, driving, growing state. So I know there's a lot of men and women out there right now who want to build some muscle, would like to feel like your body has more strength and size in the right places, yet you probably have some body fat to lose. And if this is the case, I want to argue why it's good to get that body fat down first and just kind of round out this case for why it's really effective for building muscle starting lean. The first thing that is important from like a physiologic perspective is when your body is in a lean state, you've already lost belly fat, what that tends to do in the vast majority of cases is improve your insulin sensitivity. So a little bit of physiology. We have an organ basically in the middle of our abdomen called the pancreas. And the pancreas's job is to secrete insulin. Insulin is a hormone that when we eat carbohydrates and some proteins as well, insulin goes throughout the bloodstream, helps all those nutrients get into our cells. So insulin's like a storage hormone. It gets carbohydrates into the muscle cells, it brings amino acids in, and insulin's job is to go throughout the bloodstream, clear out all that food and the nutrition we just take, get it into the cells, and then stop. Now, when we overeat for a long period of time, we have, let's just say we're carrying on excess weight because our diet's not great and we're a little stressed and we're not doing as good with our health plan as we'd want to, oftentimes what that does is makes us more insulin resistant, where our bodies are constantly pumping out insulin, and as we do more, our cells become resistant to insulin, and it takes more insulin floating around in the body to do the results in the work when you're insulin sensitive that it would take less. So we become a little insulin resistant. As we become insulin resistant more and more over time, the pancreas actually gets tired, it stops producing as much insulin, and now we have type 2 diabetes. But this is the process that happens. It's very much associated with gaining weight and having more body fat. So as we reduce that weight, reduce that body fat, we are more insulin sensitive. And why is this a good thing? Well, insulin is actually something that can really help with muscle building. And I'm going to explain why, but basically insulin triggers the cellular cascade of muscle protein synthesis through this molecule called mTOR, this protein called mTOR. So it has mTOR signaling gets turned on by insulin because it kind of makes sense, right? Our body's like, we have insulin floating around, there's nutrition coming on, let's turn on the cellular machinery to build new proteins. So we want insulin to be working for us as we're building muscle, but we also want that system to be efficient. We don't want it to be resistant with all the insulin resistant stuff. So there's a benefit to starting leaner on that from a physiologic standpoint. And what happens when we're more insulin sensitive is our bodies can actually take the calories in the foods that we're eating and send them to the right places. And when I say the right places, ideally, we're sending a lot of that fuel, the amino acids and the carbohydrates to our muscle cells and our active metabolic tissues, and we're sending less of that to the fat cells for storage. This is an idea called nutrient partitioning, which basically means I fed you a bunch of food. Where does that food end up in your bodies? How much of those excess calories are going into fat cells? How many of those calories are going to muscle building cells? And this is a real thing. Leaner people have better nutrient partitioning. So you're eating food. As you get heavier and carrying more body fat around your body, your waistline and your metabolism is just like not quite working as well, and you know you could be leaner and healthier, you're getting less good nutrient partitioning. So to build muscle, you're feeding more calories, more quality food to help the body recover. But when you're overweight and you have some weight to lose, more of those calories may be ending up in fat cells. And there's not an exact science to this because it's very individual based on each person, but these are certainly strong trends and relationships that are supported in the research. You can look up, anything about body fat levels and insulin resistance. And that's not to say that like lean people are always insulin sensitive. There are lean people who are also insulin resistant, but these trends are important to recognize. So again, we have a more favorable environment when you're starting off leaner to actually make better use of the calories you're putting in to fuel your training and nutrition to build the muscle, where more of those calories are ending up in the muscle cells to generate more tissue, less of them going into fat cells. So it's good because also when you're starting off on a leaner front and you do gain a little bit of weight and body fat in the process of building muscle, which oftentimes happens, you're gaining just a little bit from a lean standpoint versus adding more body fat onto a situation that already had too much body fat. So there's a visual benefit because as you see your body start to get bigger and expand and you're already leaner, you can see those changes happen a little more noticeably. And you can also really check to see when that body fat is getting out of a range where you're like, maybe I should scale things back. But if you're already starting heavier and having more weight, it's hard to know where that gauge is. I think there's another reason, and this is supported by the hormonal effects of body fat itself. And this is particularly relevant for men who want to build muscle. Fat cells have an enzyme called aromatase. And what aromatase's job is to take testosterone, this key hormone for men for both muscle building and fat loss, and convert it into estrogen. Body fat does that. So guys who have lots of body fat, particularly abdominal body fat, often have lower testosterone levels because some of that testosterone is being aromatized into estrogen. And then our brain is actually sensing these higher estrogen levels and has a negative feedback loop, which suppresses future testosterone production because estrogen is the body's way of saying we've already aromatized enough testosterone to estrogen. We don't need to make more test. And without getting into exactly how that feedback loop works, which is important to know, is body fat tends to decrease the hormonal environment that's beneficial for muscle building, which is having higher testosterone. So I think there is also probably a hormonal benefit to getting the body fat down. But I need you to know, when I'm talking about starting leaner, I'm not saying you need to start like shredded with abs. For men, it's probably best to start gaining muscle at like 15% body fat or less. And for women, maybe it's like 22 to 25% body fat or less. And these are like just guidelines. You may fit on either side of this equation, but if you have the intuitive sense right now that both you want to build muscle, but you know you have some weight to lose first, I recommend you lose the weight first. You're going to be leaner. Your body's going to respond a little better to the training. When you introduce the more food and more calories around the training that fuels that good muscle building, you're going to get that better nutrient partitioning. Your body's more insulin sensitive, and it's easier to track and see the visual changes that are happening in your body because you're starting from a leaner canvas as opposed to a heavier one. Just a lot of benefits of doing this way. And certainly if you've been on a very intense diet like a lot of bodybuilders do, then you get an added, rebound effect from this. Now, practically speaking, here's what I would do. Let's say I wanted to both lose some weight and build some muscle to really recomposition my body. I would go on a weight loss protocol for at least 4 weeks using something like our Fit Father 30X program or our Fit Mother 30X program. It's like a 30-day focused fat loss. I would get that going. I would decrease the body fat by a couple percentages, lose some weight, see where I'm at there. Maybe at that point, I'm ready to transition into muscle building. I would take about a week of eating basically at like a normal maintenance level. So a little more food than I was perhaps eating when I was on the weight loss phase, but not so much more food. And then you get into your muscle building phase. So it's like 4 weeks of focused fat loss, a week of buffer to kind of just stabilize, and then you move into the structured muscle building phase, which again, the only thing in my opinion that really needs to change between your baseline nutrition plan and what you're eating when you're trying to build muscle is you just need to just give a little more quality calories. And the best time to give those quality calories are around training. So post-workout, you maybe add another 500 calories in there on top of what you might have been eating there. And that comes in the form of perhaps a really good post-workout shake. Maybe you eat a little more in your pre-workout meal if you have a pre-workout meal, but just anytime around the peri-workout nutrition is a time to just boost up the calories. And if you do that, it's oftentimes enough just to tip you into that anabolic muscle building range right there. So that's the idea. If you're a guy or a woman who wants to build muscle, lose the body fat first. And I think your body's going to thank you for it. Your results will thank you for it. And it's just a good little simple idea. Now, if you really do enjoy this, then comment, let our team know we could do more content on muscle building. We try to balance the weight loss and muscle building content here on the episodes because we all have different kinds of goals, and our goals are not static. They change over time. So I want you to be armed with all sorts of these different ideas. So thanks for being here. I also want to ask you to rate and review this podcast wherever you listen, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify Podcasts. Go ahead and rate and review. If you enjoy this, it helps the podcast grow, helps more people see this information, which can change more lives. And it just, comes deeper with us. You get to come deeper with us in our community, which I absolutely love. So thanks, my friend. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you around the podcast, and I'll talk to you very soon.